we have breaking news as the Pittsburgh Penguins have robbed the Vancouver Canucks in a huge trade that brings in their new starting goalie as Kyle Dubas improves the position heading into next season. Hello everyone, welcome to Penguins Digest. My name is Nikash Ganguli. Hope you guys are enjoying the video whenever you guys are watching this or listening to this. As you can tell, Darius not with me for today's video, but I hope you guys do enjoy a solo video from me. So, before we get into the big trade the Pittsburgh Penguins just pulled off, let's make sure you guys do, of course, subscribe to the channel. We are currently at 67% of viewers who are not subscribed. So, if you are part of that large portion of viewers who are not subscribed, why don't you scroll down and hit subscribe to the channel? It's really easy, it's free, it's simple, and you can get all the Penguins information throughout the offseason in the most digestible fashion here on Pittsburgh Penguins Digest, because it is going to be an absolutely electric offseason. And Kyle Dubas just made a trade in the goaltending department, and we just put a video up on the channel about the Penguins goaltending and Tristan Jarry possibly being on the move, and this move trading for Arturs Silovs from the Vancouver Canucks could ensure that that move does indeed happen. So if you want to check that out on the channel, go check that out. But I've talked enough about, subscribing and all that stuff. Let's get into the news, guys. So first things first, we have the original trade from the Pittsburgh Penguins themselves, which is the Penguins have acquired goalie Arturs Silovs from the Vancouver Canucks in exchange for forward Chase Stillman and a 2027 fourth-round pick. Now, this is a home run trade for Kyle Dubas and co. from my eyes. Arturs Silovs just had a very good season in the AHL with the Abbotsford Canucks. I believe he just won a championship for them, so that was a very huge get for Pittsburgh. And honestly, a little bit surprising that Vancouver would give him up for so little. We'll talk about the return in a second. But they did have a bit of a logjam on goaltending. It does seem like they want to give Thatcher Demko a nice extension, and Kevin Lankinen is locked up over there. But Arturs Silovs, the Penguins take advantage of another situation where, a team just needed to get out of the contract and the roster spot. And Kyle Dubas has been taking advantage of teams a lot. He did that with the Dallas Stars and Matt Dumba, and he continues that with this trade for Arturs Silovs. Now, Chase Stillman, for those that don't know, let's talk about him a little bit before we get into Sheilovs and what he is going to bring to the squad. Obviously, quickly, 2027 fourth-round pick. The Penguins have a lot of draft picks coming up in the next few years, especially in the first 3 rounds. Kyle Dubas also does love to trade down, so honestly, Pittsburgh Penguins faithful, I would not worry too much about that 2027 fourth-round pick. It's also in 2 years, so I wouldn't really worry about that at all. He might get one back at the next trade deadline. All right, so let's get into Chase Stillman and what he has to offer to the team. Of course, if we look at his bio here, he actually was a first-round pick here from Elite Prospects, 29th overall in 2021. Which, doesn't seem that long ago, but it is now 4 years ago, which is interesting. From St. Louis, Missouri, 22 years old, born in 2003, actually born the same year as me, so, even I'm feeling a little bit old. Maybe I'm a little bit younger than some people who are watching this, but Canadian-American, and he was 6'1", 185, signed from the Pittsburgh Penguins. I'm actually not entirely sure what trade Chase Stillman came, but he's gone now, so he's on the Vancouver Canucks. And he never really lived up to that first-round pick pedigree. Even if we do look at his actual stats here, honestly, really nothing jumps off at the page at you. Even his OHL numbers were never really that strong, considering he was a forward. Racked up, I guess, didn't even rack a penalty minute, so I'm not really sure what the Devils saw in him when they drafted him in the first round. No disrespect, of course, but in the most recent season in the AHL, he was had 3 points in 19 games with the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins, and then with Utica, the Utica Comets, he had 9 points in 46 games. So really nothing to write home about here about Chase Stillman, unfortunately. So I guess you could say his best season was, I'm trying to look for a good OHL season, but even then it was nothing too crazy. In the playoffs, though, in I guess 22-23, he had 13 points in 21 games, so I guess that's something. But I don't know if he'll amount to anything for Vancouver, so honestly, good move for Kyle Dubas, trading him and a fourth to get Arturs Silovs. So enough about Chase Stillman. Let's get into Arturs Silovs. So we do have this tweet from Penn's Inside Scoop, pretty good Twitter account if you're a Pittsburgh Penguins fan, of course. And the tweet is, the 24-year-old goalie is coming off a career season with the Abbotsford Canucks of the American Hockey League, where he led the team to the Calder Cup champions as playoff MVP. And he had a very, very strong playoffs, obviously, for the Calder Cup champions. But he also had a strong regular season. So if we do kind of look at his stats in this case, you can see in the AHL playoffs, he had a .931 save percentage, everyone, in 24 games. He played more games in the playoffs than he did in the regular season with the Abbotsford Canucks. You can see in the regular season there, he had 21 points, which was with a .908, which is, it's fine. It's not that bad. And then in the playoffs, he really ramped it up. He played more minutes in the playoffs than he did in the regular season, and he had a .931. So he did kind of, what do they say, lock in for the playoffs there. So he played really well, had a very strong playoffs, and I think it's a really good asset for Kyle Dubas to get, given the Penguins' goaltending situation and how Joel Blomqvist played and Tristan Jarry played, which were both not very good. So why not try a guy like Arturs Silovs? And something to look at too. He also did play a decent amount with the Canucks over the past couple years. I know he had an okay playoff run at one point. That year they went to the conference finals where Demko was injured against I believe it was the Edmonton Oilers. Correct me if I'm wrong, of course. And he was okay. He played NHL games back in 22, 23. And then, kind of sprinkled throughout, what do they say? Cup of coffee in the NHL, some might say. But in the playoffs, he does have some experience there. But I don't think the Pittsburgh Penguins will be back in the playoffs, so maybe that doesn't matter too much in the current state of the team. So he's pretty solid. I really like this trade for the Pittsburgh Penguins. I'm confused on what Vancouver's doing over there with Jim Rutherford. Penguins fans familiar with him and the tail end of his career with Pittsburgh and what he was doing over here with the Penguins. But Kyle Dubas takes advantage of Jim Rutherford. I believe he did that once when he was in Toronto with the Jared McCann trade. Although he didn't keep Jared McCann, that trade in a vacuum was pretty good. But I like this trade a lot for the Pittsburgh Penguins. I think they absolutely fleeced the Vancouver Canucks, who were dealing at a point of disadvantage, and the Penguins had some leverage. They did need another goalie, and they do, of course, get him. And obviously, if we do look at Sheilov's contract here, it is only $850,000 and sells one more year, so it does not really impact the Penguins at all. He's also only 24 years old. We know how sometimes goalies' developmental curves are a little bit later than forwards and defensemen. 6'4", which is nice in a goalie, nice and tall, and then 203. So, very solid player for what's going to now be the Pittsburgh Penguins. So I think he'll do decent, maybe better than Jarry, because Jarry also didn't have a really good season. If we do look at his stats here, he did 893. I think maybe Sheilovs could be a little bit better than that, which would be pretty dope for the Pittsburgh Penguins based on the trade they made. And I think this was very smart for the Penguins, and I love this move from Dubas. And I think you could see Tristan Jarry be on the move next. Again, I said at the beginning of this video, there's already another video on the Penguins Digest YouTube channel talking about Tristan Jarry and where he could be on the move to. So obviously, after this video, go check that out as well if you want to know what's going on the Tristan Jarry end of things over in Pittsburgh. So before we wrap up the video, obviously the Pittsburgh Penguins, they do have $13 million in cap space to keep making these kind of deals. Maybe we'll see more Dumba type deals where they get a draft pick. I believe they got a second in that or a third. And they took on Matt Dumba's contract. He'll play for them. Maybe they can trade him at the deadline. And then, this trade they were able to do because, some teams don't have cap and some teams do. But $850,000 is not that bad for Arturs Silovs. Again, he already makes like $5 million, so I assume he will be out of town soon enough. Unless they can't, and they'll send him back to Wilkes-Barre Scranton. So, of course, before we get out of here, Arturs Silovs won the Calder Cup with Abbotsford. Very good for him. Very cool. Maybe he will bring some sort of pedigree to the NHL team. And, as we know, the Calder Cup might not always, be indicative of NHL success. Kyle Dubas won the Calder Cup with the Marlies in, I believe, 2018, the Toronto Maple Leafs AHL affiliate. And he didn't have much success with the Leafs. So maybe he'll bring that experience to the Penguins. So, all right, everyone. Let me know what you guys thought of the video. And, of course, do you guys like this trade for the Pittsburgh Penguins? And do you think Arturs Silovs can be the starter for the Pittsburgh Penguins when October rolls around? Let me know what you guys think. And, of course, we'll see you in the next video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Peace out and have a good one as always. Goodbye.